For example, we have the word day occurring in the Quran 365 times. And
Exactly.
exactly. That's without any suffixes, because we have the word day occurring also with suffixes like yawma idhin, that day. So they are written together as one word in the Arabic language, whereas, of course, in the translation, there will be two words. So if we keep in mind that we're just interested in the word day in the singular, without any suffixes, there are just 365 of them altogether. And the word for month, shahr in Arabic, occurs in the singular exactly 12 times. Now we should be clear what we're saying here. We're not saying, oh, the Quran says that there are 365 days,
That's true,
because of
yeah.
course every
Yeah.
school child knows that. It's nothing remarkable about that. What is remarkable is that if you wrote a book and you go back in hindsight and say, well, how many times did I mention the word day in my book? And then it turns out that it was 365. That would be a remarkable coincidence. And then the word for month also 12 times, which
That's true.
itself is connected with the word month, because there are 12 months in a year. Well, that is another remarkable coincidence. And when you put the two coincidences together, for the two to occur in the same book, it's quite unusual. And one would think that the author of a book in which this occurs must have deliberately counted to make sure that this is what he or she is doing with his or her book.
Are there any examples of contrasting or words in comparison that also have some mathematical patterns within them?
Yes, we find that there are words which occur in the Quran either in comparison or contrast with each other, and they occur an equal number of times. We're not saying this in the case of all words, but enough words to give us reason for pause and to make us realize that there's something supernatural about this book. For example, man and woman, rajul in Arabic, imra'a in Arabic again, rajul for man, imra'a for woman, both occur in the Quran 24 times each.
Exactly.
That's right. And if every time the Quran mentioned man, it also mentioned woman, then of course it will always come out even Steven, right? If you said man and woman, man and woman, man and woman, then the numbers of men and women will be the same. But if some chapters mention man but not woman, and some chapters mention woman but not man, well, then who was doing the counting to make sure that this comes out even like this? The same thing we can see about the relationship between the names Jesus and Adam. In the third chapter of the Quran, in the 59th verse, the Quran says, Inna mathala Isa indallahi kamathali Adam. The example of Jesus in the sight of God is like the example of Adam. So there's a comparison here between Jesus and Adam, and given the context of the passage, what is obviously meant in the Quran is that whereas God created Adam, God also created Jesus. So from a Muslim point of view, Jesus is a creature of God, just as Adam was a creature of God. So the two of them are alike. But from a mathematical point of view, there's another way in which the two of them are alike, in that each name, Jesus and Adam, occur in the Quran 25 times. So,
Interesting, yeah.
and yes, it's interesting. Interesting also because, again, some chapters mention Jesus but not Adam. Some chapters mention Adam but not Jesus. Seldom do they occur together in the same chapter, and even more rarely do they occur in the same verse.
I mean, it's evident that, to me, as I'm listening to you, it's evident that this is not something that a human can do. But is it possible that these were done by companions of the Prophet and the Prophet together? Is that a possibility?
Let me mention two more examples, and then I'll deal with this possibility. So now the numbers become larger, and the larger the number, the more remarkable it is. You look at shaitan and malaika. Shaitan is the word for devil in Arabic, and malaika the word for angels. Now, obviously, these are contrasting terms, devil and angels. The word for devil in the Quran occurs 88 times. The word for angels, 88 times as well. So there's a perfect match like this. We always contrast this life with the life hereafter. Dunya in Arabic, akhirah in Arabic. Dunya for this world, akhirah for the life hereafter. Dunya is mentioned 115 times. Akhirah also 115 times. Again, with these large numbers and a perfect match.
Well, and it's also interesting because you've mentioned that they're not always mentioned exactly at the same time. So that's right. Also very I don't have any word. Like, that's also
True.
very
But let me
interesting.
deal with your question. Could it have been that, the companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, did this? Well, what we know about the Quranic revelation is that it was given a piece at a time through a kind of inspiration that caught hold of the Prophet, peace be upon him, and he just simply acted as a conduit to deliver that message to the people. Once he recited these, they were memorized and written down by some of his companions on a wide variety of materials. With the result that at the time of his death, it is said that no one person had the entire Quran altogether in written form with him. Some people had memorized the Quran
Directly from the Prophet.
directly from him, but the written pieces were scattered. So that when Zayd bin Thabit was commissioned by Abu Bakr within 2 years after the death of the Prophet, peace be upon him, to go around and collect the written pieces, he had to go from house to house to collect whatever pieces each person had. And then when he compiled them all together into written sheets, he left those sheets with Abu Bakr. So now we have a written collection that corresponds with the memories of the people. So people had memorized the entire text, but now for the first time we have a continuous writing of the entire Quran. And without pen and paper before you, you cannot perform the kinds of analysis which we're able to perform now and see how many times a certain thing is mentioned in the Quran, or a certain word or phrase or expression or so on. People may have a vague recollection that, okay, this occurs a number of times, it occurs again and again, but to count them from memory, to know how many times, it's not easy. And sometimes people imagine that ancient folks had a much superior memory. But in a recent book by Bart Ehrman, Jesus Before the Gospels, it is quite demonstrated that that expectation of ancient people is quite exaggerated. And in fact, yes, as we become more dependent on calculators, for example, our math skills may diminish. As we use spell checkers more, we become less capable ourselves of passing a spelling bee contest, and so on. But memories of human beings have been as fallible as they are now. And without pen and paper, some sorts of analyses are very difficult to conduct.
And I guess it's also very telling how you're explaining that he went individually to all of these people to collect, and then you put it down, and this is how.
That's right. So it's when you put all of these pieces together and then you study the final compilation from this, that the companions of the Prophet, peace be upon him, just faithfully tried to piece together according to what was written down in the time of the Prophet, peace be upon him, not daring to invent or change anything on their own, that this result comes out. In fact, Islamic history is so clear that people were conservative when it comes to conserving the Quran, that even the idea of compiling it all together in one book was met with the objection, how can we do something that the Prophet, peace be upon him, didn't do? When it came time to write in what today we depend on to read the Quran well, meaning the vowel markers, people resisted. They said, okay, this is something new that you're going to add into the Quran, don't do this. And if they didn't do it, it would be difficult for us to read the Quran, but they did that. But that, of course, doesn't change the basic word structure. It just leaves the words as they are, and we can count the words and see the miraculous outcome.